Use the word model the brain. Now, the way I understand what some of the things they're doing is they're trying to create this incredible database. Let's say you made an email yesterday afternoon at 2:15. That goes into it. Let's say you have a home movie of your daughter running towards you at age 4. That goes into it. It's all, you know, that would be an analog video shot. This would be an email that you've recorded. And these beams, as some of these, you know, beam is kind of like a personal mem almost. It's kind of like the memories, the attitudes, the physical morphological response, the heart rate, all of that goes into this incredible goulash soup on a hard drive somewhere. Does that change what you're saying? It's still a representation of something.
Well, it depends. So it depends what you mean. Gordon Bell at Microsoft.
That's what I'm. Yeah.
I always get the name of it wrong. All my life bits.
Oh yeah, it's called a micro sense cam or something.
Well, that's what he uses. There's a variety of techniques, but last time I heard about him, he had an amulet that would record sound and video and all the rest of it. And so what you get out of that is something, you don't get a complete record, but you get an enormous record of what that person saw, sort of. You can actually get a record of what the sensing device saw at the resolution that it saw and so forth. But that's, you know, very unusual. But I don't know of anybody who says, well, you take all those videos and sounds together, and now you have replaced Gordon Bell to the extent that if you were to, I hate to say it, if you were to kill Gordon Bell, it wouldn't matter because you'd have all this stuff. That's not an AI thing. It vastly increases the amount of information that a person has and can recall, and would change a great deal about how society works. But,
right. Well, on the edges of science fantasy, maybe I've heard that when, you know, it's like when you look over a child's shoulder and they're connecting you know, you're an adult, so you see you know that they're making a star. They don't know it yet. They see the 3 dots. The idea is when the supercomputers and super powerful computers with an additional software that would work would look over, you know, look into Gordon Bell's hard drive and reconstitute by anticipating the missing dots.
So it might well be that you could, you can anticipate what Gordon Bell is going to do simply by knowing him person to person, right, as we can with anybody, right? Right. So people are fairly predictable, and as you know, just as you expect, I'm probably going to be sitting here and not suddenly leap up and dance the Marengo. I mean, it's just, you know, we're fairly predictable. And so if we have much more information about about that person's environment and the sorts of things that he or she was seeing, then sure, of course, we'd be able to predict more accurately what the next thing is that Gordon Bell would do in this or that circumstance. And that might be very interesting or useful. It might be dreadful, but that's very different from saying that that database of stuff is Gordon Bell and is conscious.
So if still, what I guess my question was, it still fits into your critique of a model being an insufficient representation of the thing itself.
What Gordon Bell is doing is not a model. So right, he's just capturing home movies, so to speak, of his entire life. He's taking notes on his entire life, except that he has sensors that are doing it. And there's lots to think about that, but that's not an abstraction. That's a recording, and it's not attempting to model his life, it's attempting to capture his sensory his experiences.
I mean, not to get lost in this, but that's what I understood Kurzweil was doing. I mean, on one level, there's that discussion of can we find can we find, and through imaging or whatever, can we reverse engineer the human brain? And that's what I think is one area.
In the Age of Spiritual Machines, Kurzweil talks about doing a complete map of the neurons of the brain and understanding how they interact, the programming of the brain. Right. The whole notion that the brain is an information processor or a computer is itself highly suspect. Nevertheless, capture the neural configuration and the rules for processing. You now have his brain and, he thinks, his mind modeled perfectly in the bits of a computer. And so you'd simply have to keep running that. Now you'd also have to have the inputs, because his brain is, as everybody is, we're constantly getting inputs through our sense organs. But that also can be captured. Douglas Hofstadter has also had a piece from the 80s on this, a conversation with Einstein's brain, in which Hofstadter supposes, it's a thought experiment, he supposes that we've captured Einstein's neurological state perfectly, completely, all 100 billion neurons, or in the case of Einstein, 102 billion. He's a little bit smarter than the rest of us. We've captured those perfectly, but we didn't put them into bits in a computer. We instead put them basically into bits in an enormous book. And each page, as I recall, each page represents a neuron, and it has pointers to the other neurons to which it's connected. And so you can riffle through the book and have a conversation with Einstein's brain, just as it would take a long time, of course, and much slower than the one if you do it on your computer. Because, let's see, here's the neural input from what I just said to Einstein. Translate it, because the book helps you do that, and look up the pages, and eventually you get the output to the vocal cords, which you can then translate into Einstein saying, yes, I'm fine, thank you, or whatever. Hofstadter's piece is much harder to figure out. It's much harder to figure out what Hofstadter is saying exactly, at least I find it. With Kurzweil, it's clear. He's making a case. He expects that by the year, 2029? I can't remember. We'll be able to do this. And it will be he'll live forever. He'll live forever. Hofstadter, it's you're left thinking, okay, I can see that this works the same way the computer one would, but do we really want to say that Einstein is alive, and so long as people are there thumbing through his pages? Isn't that simply a model of what he would say? To me, Hofstadter's example makes it very clear that this sort of formal representation of a brain state absolutely does not cause consciousness, is not itself conscious. It's just a book. For all the good that information has done, and I am absolutely not a Luddite, I'm in favor of computers and all that stuff. For all the good that the information age has done to us, it has driven us to the extreme of a tendency in Western philosophy, Western thought, to go more and more abstract, to the point where the abstraction has literally been taken as the real thing. The thought that the abstraction, the symbolic abstraction and representation of the brain or of mental states or of experience, that the abstraction and representation of these things is the real thing, is sort of cultural craziness.